Hello and welcome back to Podium Pop. My name is Celine and I'm here with my co-host Gracie. Today's episode we are doing a race recap on the Formula One Bahrain Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
It was the fourth race of the year. We did not do a race recap for Japan last year because
Last year
we did do one last year. Last week we didn't do one, mainly because we didn't really watch it.
We were out of town. We were on a bachelorette trip.
We kept up with the results.
We did end up walking into a bar that had it playing, and because they're playing good music, so I was like, let's go in here. And I looked at my friends. I was like, I swear I didn't go in here on purpose. Yeah. It was like the end of the race.
So we got to catch glimpses of it, but we want to be transparent with you all. That is why we did not have an episode. But we did watch the Bahrain race today. Mm-hmm. It just finished up about 2 hours ago. And there's been some changes. So we're going to give you the full weekend recap. But before we get started, make sure you go follow us on social media. We post on Instagram and on TikTok quite a bit. We post our Spotify episodes, we post episodes on Spotify and on YouTube every Monday. Sometimes we do have some special episodes that come out throughout the week. Sometimes we have a week with 2 episodes, which will be the case this week because there was an IndyCar race this weekend as well. So make sure you follow us to keep up with all of those episodes. And I guess we should just pop the bottle, get right on into it.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Okay. Not much happened for the pre-race.
Not much happened before.
It's always a quick turnaround with, double headers and triple headers because they just finished up with Japan and then they all hopped on a plane and then they were in Bahrain.
Yeah.
A lot of the drivers got to Bahrain early. Mm-hmm. And we had some paddle matches.
We sure did.
It was revealed in the fan zone, the Williams fan zone, that Alex, Lando, Oscar, and Mark Webber, of all people, played paddle together.
And I just love that.
And the fact that Oscar and Mark Webber lost is not helping Oscar's case in being the worst paddle player.
Really not helping Oscar's case.
Also, why was that not filmed for PR? And why was it Mark Webber, not Carlos Sainz? Could you imagine Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri on the same paddle team?
That'd be hilarious. Also, but since last year, we've been asking for a Williams McLaren paddle match.
Yeah, it seems like a missed opportunity.
A huge missed opportunity.
So, Williams, if you could get on that, McLaren, if you could make that happen.
It's literally easy peasy.
Do it in Miami. Do it in Miami.
Do it on Thursday in Miami. Maybe after
let
media
fans
day,
in.
after my flight lands, and I'll buy a ticket to the court, and it goes to charity.
It goes to charity.
Boom.
Oh my gosh! And we'll promote it and organize it for you.
Oh, actually, we really would.
So if you're interested, reach out.
If you think that should happen in Miami, also comment.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, if you would go to that.
See you at the paddle courts in Miami.
See you at the courts.
Except for they're going to have to call them pickleball courts.
That might be the final straw for them.
I think that is
They were like, we can't do it in America. Yeah. Is there a difference between pickleball and paddle, or is it literally the exact same thing?
I think they play with a different ball. Pickleball is played with a wiffle ball, and I think paddle is played with more
Can you bounce it off the walls too? You can in paddle, but I don't think you can in pickleball because they're playing on tennis courts.
Yeah, they're normally played outside.
So some differences.
Yeah.
Okay. We're getting to the bottom of it here.
Yeah, we really are.
Investigative journalism.
It's our due
diligence.
It's a hard word.
I mean, it's 2 words, but
whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, other than that, we really just got the Masters video.
From Carlos.
Did you watch it?
I haven't watched it yet.
I actually haven't watched it yet. I've seen clips of it.
I have, yeah.
But I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't care about golf at all.
I was on the Masters side of TikTok this weekend, and it was fun. I was into it.
I was close. I went on a work trip this week, and I was about an hour and a half away from where the Masters takes place. I saw so many people decked out in golf gear in the airports. Golf gear.
Not different from a golf livery.
A golf livery. Wow. Do you think Alex's girlfriend Lily was excited for the Masters to watch it?
Probably. It's one of the
big event.
For to get a Grand Slam.
It's their Indy 500, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
Or is there other big events for golf?
It's The Masters is the biggest.
Okay.
Because I think it's like the Monaco. It's the most historic.
Okay.
Because if I get this wrong, like literally don't.
We're not a golf podcast, so you're allowed to get it wrong.
It's like the Masters, the U.S. Open, and 2 others that make the Grand Slam.
Okay.
And the Masters like the most important, and it was this year. Sorry, what am I turning into a golf podcast?
Wait, like literally, what are you doing? I love it.
Everybody was all eyes were on Rory McIlroy. Yeah, that guy. Because he hasn't won the Masters yet.
Yeah, but everybody wanted him to. Lando was rooting for him. So was Niall.
I watched a TikTok video about the Masters.
Niall was doing something. He was rooting for someone else, I think.
Niall used to love him a lot. He probably still does. I haven't.
Maybe he did say him. I saw a video and they asked him who he was rooting for. It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't matter. We don't cover golf here.
Anyway, we're a Formula 1 podcast.
let's get back to the racing. Should we start with qualifying?
Yeah.
Okay, so I took some notes. Let me get to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sourcing through my Formula 1 qualifying notes and my IndyCar qualifying notes.
She is not digital. She's all paper. No,
I'm all paper. Let's take it back old school. Give me a typewriter.
Okay, girl.
No, just kidding. I don't like typewriters. Okay, starting out Q1. It was interesting for one person. I mean, everything was pretty normal. It was Lando, Lewis, Max, Oscar. Mm-hmm. In 5th, it was Jack in the Alpine.
Like, he was doing so good during
He was doing so good. If you haven't already, go to TikTok and Instagram. I posted a rookie report over qualifying on how the rookies in particular did. So it kind of gives a full recap of that. But in Q1, Alex, Liam, Gabby, Lance, and Ollie were the ones that got out, which is disappointing. I don't know what happened with Ollie. I missed like the first maybe 10 minutes of qualifying, but like his pace was not there in qualifying.
No.
And then, Lance and Gabby, it's pretty not strange that they're out in Q1. It is disappointing that we had Alex out in Q1 because he's been doing really good the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
In the Williams. And Liam is just trying to make his way.
Liam had issues with his DRS.
Okay, that makes sense.
He couldn't, he was really, really, really upset about that.
Yeah.
He would have.
Actually, I did see the clip of him. Like, that guy can't catch a break.
No, he cannot catch a break right now.
Someone check on him.
Truly. Something very interesting from qualifying, though, is Max and Yuki were having issues in the beginning. And there was 5 minutes left, and they did not have a time.
No, it was a very stressful weekend in general for Red Bull and RB. I would say they've been kind of struggling, and that does carry over into the race as well. Going to Q2, we have Esteban with a really big crash right at the beginning of Q2, which is super unfortunate again because they had Ollie already qualify in 20th, and now they have Esteban. Haas was struggling.
In qualifying, though.
In qualifying, they were struggling. But the Alpines were looking really quick. And Red Bull, again, was struggling in Q2 as well. They literally got through only in 9th and 10th from Q2 to Q3. Q3 happened. There was nothing.
We need to talk about in Q2, though. After the red flag from Esteban, both Mercedes went out before the resume time was started.
Yes.
So they were lined up in the pit lane already, ready to go, but there was no resume time started for the session. So immediately they were like, we've got to look into that. That's not.
Yeah.
So it was immediately noted by the stewards and then looked into after the race.
Yes, that did cause some issues. But in Q3, Max again was complaining a lot about the car. He was not happy with the brakes. And Oscar ended up getting pole. An amazing lap put together. And honestly, the pace that everyone said the McLarens had, Mercedes is not far off of pace with us at all.
No, I don't think so.
And also George Russell, I feel like it is so often that people throw around the names of Max and Lando and Charles and Oscar for competing for this world championship, the drivers' championship. But George Russell he's doing so good, but he's kind of flying under the radar with it.
A little bit he is.
And I'm interested in that battle of his.
It's going to be very interesting.
Do I want them to do great? Well, no, because I'm a McLaren fan and Mercedes seems to be right now our biggest competition. Yeah. Which again is just so crazy that 2 years ago in 2023, if you said that it was Mercedes and McLaren battling, you'd be like, where the heck's Ferrari and where the heck's Red Bull?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What do you mean?
So qualifying for the top 10 in Q3, before any penalties are given out, it was Oscar, George, Charles, Kimi, Kimi qualified originally in 4th, which would have been his highest qualifying, or highest he's ever qualified. In 5th was Pierre. Again, the Alpine's looking so quick. 6th is Lando. He struggled on his last lap. He messed up sector 1, and that kind of just caused him not to get on the board, or not to get high up on the board. 7th was Max. Carlos in 8th. Carlos was looking really, really good during qualifying. Lewis in 9th. Noted that Carlos did out-qualify Lewis. Carlos in a Williams out-qualified Lewis in a Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's nothing else needs to be said there. And Yuki qualified in 10th. But after the race, we had some penalties come out. So Kimi and George both dropped 1 place penalty due to the incident that happened in Q2.
Yeah.
So then it was Oscar, Charles, George, Pierre, Kimi, Lando, Max. And then Nico Hülkenberg also got a 5-place grid penalty, I believe. I don't know why.
Oh, I forget the reason. What the most frustrating thing from that, though, is that could have led Alex Albon to getting to Q2.
Yeah,
but
and who knows what he could have done in
investigate
Q2.
it, yeah, until after. That's frustrating.
Yeah, no, it is.
This has nothing to do with qualifying. One of my favorite things, I noticed it during qualifying, was one of the towers that they had there with the LED lights on it, just because the Commonwealth of Bahrain owns the majority of McLaren. It just had the McLaren logo all over it, and I thought it was hilarious.
No, and it was like that like all weekend.
No, almost all weekend.
It was great.
So
crazy.
Funny.
Okay, I was trying to see where Nico...
Results.
So yeah, Nico did end up qualifying after his penalty in 16th. So he was right in between Liam and Alex. Mm-hmm. So very disappointing. But all in all, another Oscar pole, his 2nd pole of the year. It's also something about his 50th Grand Prix start.
Yeah. Like heavy into witchcraft, that Oscar.
Yeah, some things he's got he's sinister. What is it?
Sinister, evil, and orange.
Yeah, that's literally him.
No, it is.
Anything else to add about quali?
No, onto the race.
Okay, let's get into the race.
We saw with the start of the race, everyone but 5 people started the mediums. So Gabby, Liam Lawson, Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc all started the softs, and everybody else started the mediums.
Yeah, rumor is that Charles had a conversation, according to F1 TV commentators, Charles had a conversation with Pierre, and then Pierre told them that Ferrari was planning a one-stop for the race, which is why they started on mediums. That was their goal. Mm-hmm. That is the strategy that Charles himself was pushing really heavily throughout the race.
Yeah.
It did not work out. Did not happen. It was definitely not a one-stop race for them. Mm-hmm. But starting out lap 1, we go off. Oscar keeps the lead. Fantastic. George and Charles have a really, really tough battle, and it seems as though Lando kind of comes up out of nowhere from 6th up to 4th. Mm-hmm. He passes everyone like within the first turn. We do later find out a couple of laps into the race that this has nothing to do with that.
No, I don't think so.
It didn't. It didn't, because it's not like he had a false start. They was thrown around that he did end up getting a penalty, but it wasn't for a false start. It's because he
out of the gearbox
started slightly in front of the gearbox. Like he was maybe like a couple like centimeters, I don't know how far, in front of where he should be starting. And because of that, he did get a 5-second penalty.
Okay, Your Honor. He did nothing wrong. He had a great start despite that. Yeah.
No, his start, if he would have started where he was, he still would have had the exact same ground. He would have made up the same amount. It's fine. It's fine. Did it kill me inside a little bit? Yes. But I wasn't too worried about it. No. It was the very beginning of the race. He had 50-something laps to make up that time. We had really good pace. Our car is the fastest on the grid. I wasn't too worried about it. Unfortunately, Lando made it really difficult for me to not worry about it throughout the rest of the race because he was stressing me out quite a bit. It's fine.
Par for the course, I'm going to be honest.
Par for the course.
More golf.
No, exactly.
I love to bring up golf today.
Par. It doesn't matter. I don't know anything about golf. In lap 9, Carlos has a beautiful overtake on Lewis, although it's very short-lived. Lewis does get the position back pretty quickly.
We should note, too, that in the beginning, the mediums were struggling until they kind of came alive around lap 10. Like, Charles noted it, Pierre noted it for Charles. Was like, looks like Charles is struggling on those mediums.
Yeah, in fact, in lap 10, Oscar specifically starts complaining about his tires. He said, I'm just now starting to lose it. Yeah. And that's kind of when the switch happened, where everyone that started on the mediums, it was starting to pay off a bit.
Yeah.
Where before they were definitely losing pace to the soft tires. Mm-hmm. So in lap 18 is when we start seeing Charles and Ferrari kind of have to make the decision on, are they going to go with the one stop or not?
Yeah.
Ferrari basically said, hey, we're going to pit you for mediums. And he started on mediums. He pitted for mediums, which means that it could not, even if he could last for some reason that long, it could not be a one stop because he has to have 2 different types of tire compounds throughout the race. So Charles was like, no, I want to do plan D, which we're assuming is a one-stop. Ferrari was not confident with that strategy, so they ended up doing mediums again, so that would automatically put him into the 2-stop range.
Which, I mean, is for the best because Max complained so much about those hards once he got him on later in the race.
Yeah, I think that they made the right call with this decision, along with the fact that there is a safety car. Putting on the hards would have had, if they would have put the hards on at this moment and done that with the safety car, they would have had really no advantage because they would have changed the tires again. They just would have been slower than putting on the mediums or the softs. Yeah. So in lap 20, we see really close battling between Kimi and Max, which like you just have, like, think about how much Kimi was probably like freaking out.
I don't think he was.
I think, like, that's Max Verstappen.
Yeah, but
he's just a little boy.
Kimi is a fantastic race
driver. He is. Don't get me wrong, but he did overtake Max, and it was again a beautiful. There were so many good overtakes in this race, and especially compared to Japan last year, like we were getting.
You keep saying last year.
Oh my god, it feels like last year.
That's actually
a long.
Well, because we didn't watch, so technically Japan was last year for us.
I don't know why I keep saying that. Last week, but there were so many good overtakes throughout this whole race.
Real quick, Lando served his 10-second penalty on lap 11, and then around 10-11 is when the midfield started pitting for the first time.
Yes.
And then on lap 17, Alex Albon went furthest on the softs, is when he pit.
Yeah, we also had some really good pit stops. Like a lot of the teams were on it, except for Red Bull.
That was crazy.
Yeah, so in lap 21, Max starts complaining about basically everything in his car overheating. He was very frustrated about everything, and he finally pits on lap 27, and it is a super slow stop. That one was due to there was an issue where like the light that turns green when it says like you can go was malfunctioning for Red Bull. In fact, Max had an issue with it, and then like a lap later when Yuki pit, he also had an issue with it. Super frustrating. He goes on to have another horrible pit stop later in the race where something was wrong with his front right tire. Sticky nuts.
Oh no, they had sticky nuts.
Sticky nut strikes again.
Sauber cursed them.
Yeah, no, honestly.
Gabby said, here you go, Max. Take it.
Gabby said, take my sticky nuts, double it, and pass it to the next guy. Yeah, so at this point, like we're about halfway through the race, I'd say.
And just the overtakes are glorious. I made like several notes about it.
So many good overtakes. There is contact between Carlos and Yuki.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say it was Yuki's fault because it wasn't. It was a racing incident. But it was frustrating being a Carlos fan, but also being a Yuki fan that there was that damage.
It's so hard.
Debris came off of, I believe, Carlos's car, and the side of his car looked fucked. Did you see it? You could literally see inside his guts.
That's like someone breaking a bone and you can see the bone pop out.
Yeah, it was really gross. It was really unsettling, honestly.
It was very unsettling.
So there was debris on track. A lot of the commentators were talking about how it definitely should have been a virtual safety car. It's fine.
I was like, they learned their lesson from Qatar last year when they left the wing mirror from Sauber out there and then it ran over and gave so many issues.
Yeah, a lot of issues there. But because of that contact, the safety car for debris, Oscar pit first,
safety
everything
car came
followed.
At the perfect time for Oscar. If it was a couple seconds later, Oscar could have been.
No, it could have been. He could have been screwed over by that. So pretty much everyone pits.
Oh, it was crazy. Everybody coming in.
Yeah, it was.
Even the commentators were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And then during the safety car too, it's actually a pretty good advantage for Lando as well. Go ahead.
Finish that thought. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a pretty good advantage for Lando because at this point, Charles had fresher tires than Lando at this point.
Yes.
But because of the safety car, it kind of equalizes them. They both have newer tires on. Charles did put on the hard tires. He couldn't do mediums. And it was too far from the end to do softs. And Lando put on medium tires. At this point, everyone, unless they had issues, everyone was doing their final pit stop of the race during the safety car. Go ahead.
Before the safety car, and Kimi Antonelli pit, and we were still pretty high up, and he pit and put on softs, which I thought was very interesting. I would have loved to see how, if there wasn't a safety car, how his strategy would have played out.
No, honestly, and even the commentators were like, why did they put on softs? Yeah. Like, he's going to have to pit again. Maybe, Kimi also did some witchcraft and caused the safety car, and he put on softs temporarily, and then once the safety car came on, he was able to put on newer softs. Mm-hmm. So, that was definitely Kimi's voodoo magic working there. The restart was a little bit scary, not for Oscar, he was fine, but a little scary for Charles, Lando, Lewis. They were butt munching the heck out of each other. Their cars were literally all up in each other's business.
They were so close.
So Lewis overtakes Lando, because Lando's trying to get Charles. It's, at this point, Oscar, Charles, Lando, Lewis. Or no, Oscar, George, Charles, Lando, Lewis. And they're basically battling for P3 between the two Ferraris and Lando. Lando's trying to get Charles, but then out of nowhere, Lewis comes around, overtakes him. Not for long. Lando does get it back. And then Lando starts chasing down Charles at that moment.
Lando did overtake Lewis, but they said it was off track, so the team came over and said, just give it back.
Give the position back.
And then go get him again. He did very easily.
Yeah, so he, because he overtook him and he was on out of track limits, Lando was told to give the position back because he almost was catching Charles at that point. Mm-hmm. But if he would have caught Charles, he couldn't have given the position back to Lewis, and then they would have gotten that penalty, which was much worse than just giving the position back. Yeah. So that happened. Also, Carlos and Kimi also almost made contact. Mm-hmm. But because of that, Carlos basically ran Kimi off the track, Carlos got a 10-second penalty later. But because of the damage and the 10-second penalty, a couple laps later, around lap 46, they do tell Carlos to retire the car.
So sad.
Sad.
He qualified so well. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like we were starting to see him get more familiar with this car and the team. Everybody were like, okay, here we go.
It seemed like his race.
Yes,
he
did.
Qualified great. He felt comfortable in the car. He felt comfortable with the team. Before the last couple of races, Alex was the faster Williams. And this race weekend, Carlos was definitely the one in Williams to watch. And then this happens. And Carlos even came over the radio and was like, are they investigating Yuki for that incident? And they're like, they did. They found nothing. You're just kind of out of luck at that point. So they did retire the car, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Liam Lawson also got, around lap 41, got a 5-second penalty for causing a collision. I don't know what collision he caused, but he got that penalty, and then he goes on. Yeah, I'm
really honest. I don't, I remember in my head, noting it, and I was like, oh, Liam penalty, and then I was on to something else.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening.
There's a lot going on around that first penalty. Yeah. He also, about 15 laps after that 5-second penalty, gets another penalty, a 10-second penalty, for also causing a collision. It's fine. He's trying his best. He's really trying. So around lap 45, we do start seeing some issues with George's time tracker.
Yeah.
Because I was watching it, and he literally went from second. He started dropping down so far that I literally wrote down in my notes George pitting, because that's what I thought was happening.
I was recording my reaction to the safety car restart.
Yeah.
And then I deleted it because I felt embarrassed. And then I was like, because George was like, "Why are we going on these used softs? Like, what? Like,
right? He complained about the softs.
What did he say?
Audacious.
Yes,
he said it was audacious to think that these softs could last me to the end of the race, which is true because almost nobody else got put on softs at the safety car pit stop.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they were used softs that he got. Yeah. So he was complaining about that. So whenever he started falling down, I just assumed that he pit.
I literally said that. I was like, oh my God, he's already pitting. Like, what do you mean?
Right. But actually it was an issue with his time tracker. And they came over, the commentators talked about how they're like, no, George is still in second. His time tracker is just messed up. Which I saw like after the race, like a screenshot on like Twitter of someone. And it was like everyone on track. And then George Russell just like in like the background, like in like the negative space on the map. But because of the time tracking issue, that was causing issues with not only for him, but other drivers on knowing when they were within DRS zone. Yeah. Because to be within DRS zone, you have to be within a second of the driver in front of you in the specific zones. And George couldn't tell if he was within a second of the person in front of him, but also Lando, who was behind him at this point, could not tell if he was within a second. So there was even a message that came over and was like, hey, Lando, unless you are 100% sure you are within a second of him, do not use DRS. We don't want to risk it. Yeah. Which, like, how is that Lando's problem?
How would that be Lando's fault, literally?
How is that his problem?
It's not his problem. That is not his circus or his monkeys.
No, it really isn't. It's George's circus and monkeys. It's Toto's circus.
I was going to say, it's Toto's.
At one point, George was having a bunch of issues with his car near the end. His car
was like falling apart.
He tried to hit the radio button, but it opened up DRS for a second. He closed it immediately, and it didn't give him any advantage. He wasn't in the DRS zone. He was investigated for that. People did think that there was a chance he would get a penalty from it. But again, there was no advantage. It was a mistake. He immediately closed it. It was open for a second. He did not get a penalty for it.
My favorite after this moment while all this is happening is when Lewis comes over the radio and just goes, man, these tires suck.
No, I literally wrote that down. Lewis, these tires suck. I said, real.
So funny. And like to think, once again, Charles wanted to throw those on and use them to the end of the race. Obviously, like, you know, what have you, but good thing for him he did.
Another funny radio message was when Oscar, he wasn't in any drama.
Like, once again, we're not talking about him because he kept his head down. He was quiet. He just ran away.
He just was like, leave me to it. And they did.
Said, don't talk to me.
But at one point, they come over the radio and they're like, Oscar, make sure you're using your drink. And he goes, I would if it was working. Like,
and like that also goes to show that like Oscar was doing so well that they broadcasted that radio from him.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well, here's something.
We haven't heard from the race leader. Let's throw this out there.
No, exactly. Right around where George started facing issues with DRS, Lando was fighting Charles for the P3 spot, and he had a horrible lockup. It was scary as hell watching it.
It was really
scary. Yeah, I hated that. It was a really close battle between Lando and Lewis. It was a close battle between Lando and Charles. Like these, and then eventually once Lando did overtake Charles, it was a close battle between Lando and George. And like Lando was just struggling to like pass people this weekend. Yeah. He was second guessing himself. He was doing like weird moves. He was ducking out of moves early. He had that lockup. I don't know. I think qualifying definitely like. I think he tried to change his perspective on it on race day, but you could tell that it still shook his confidence a little bit.
Yeah, you could.
Because something was off with it.
Yeah, he definitely came in. He literally said after qualifying, it feels like I've never driven an F1 car before.
Yeah, which like, and like he's so dramatic. I love his ass, but he is so dramatic.
No, but that's so us coded.
No, that's so us. I mean, like, I literally it feels like I've never even done this before.
Actually, I got in my car. I haven't driven in a few days, and I got in my car and I was driving, and I was like, what am I doing? And then out loud I was like, God, I don't know if I've ever driven a car before. And I was like, I didn't even mean to do that. I was like,
okay, I get it. He's one of the girls.
And then he came in today and was like, I went to bed, I slept it off, like I'm feeling better. Mm-hmm. But I think it was still just lingering over him a bit.
Yeah.
And we once again like had the Lando Norris defense squad out in force. Martin Brundle, Andrea Stella.
Yep. Like, they were working hard.
They were
putting in the hours.
Yeah.
Clocking in for overtime for sure. Right around the time that Lando did overtake Charles, George again was having more issues with his car, including his steering wheel dashboard. They basically said, hey, we're going to practically we're going to try to reset it.
Yeah.
But when we reset it, you're just going to lose all, like, your whole steering wheel is just going to shut down, basically. Like, it's still going to work, but, like, the lights and the buttons, like, all that's just not going to work. And George was like, as long as my wheel doesn't fall off. And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha. But meanwhile, yesterday in qualifying, Fernando's wheel fell off the car.
How? Can we talk about that?
Once again, I kind of forgot Aston Martin existed.
Yes.
Why?
That's not okay.
No. They said there was something on Twitter. It was like, if Fernando won't retire, they're gonna make him retire.
Also, like him having to show the mechanics how easy it pulls off.
Yeah,
and like you could literally see he was like trying to use force with it, but it like came with this like tug of war when they're pulling too hard, but the other team just falls.
Yeah, no, literally, it's insane,
crazy.
Along with that, he also came over the radio to complain about his gears messing up as well. Yeah. So he was having a rough time. So the fact that he was able to hold on to second place like he did. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
Kind of going back from the front of the grid down to like the P6 area. Pierre and Max. Pierre Gasly. You know that had to feel good.
What a weekend.
You know, like he probably felt like really like he felt probably on top of the world.
Did you see his interview after the race?
No, what did he say?
Well, because how Max overtook him in the last lap.
Yeah.
He was talking with Laura and Italian man, I forget his name.
I love him though.
No, I love him. And he was like, they were like talking about it, and he was like, sorry, I'm still just like a little shook up, like it still affects me, not affecting me, I don't know, a little shook up of like being overtaken in that last second, because they were like talking to him about it.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, like really, it was really
no, he probably like, it's for him to be on such a high and then for it to be like literally the last freaking corner, or like the second to last quarter.
Or behind you.
Yeah, no, it was probably a very low moment. And then again, lap 54, that's around the time that Liam got his 10-second penalty. We had a lot of drivers facing the black and white flag warning for track limits, including Yuki, Max, Lando, Kimi, Isaac. Like it was struggling pretty much across the board.
The commentators were like, Kimi and Isaac got their black and white flag pretty early on in the race. Yeah. The commentators were like, and when they get the violation, I was like, damn, they're not going to give them a chance.
They didn't, though.
No, they didn't.
They understood.
They knew
what they needed to do. But then Oscar wins.
Oscar won. Also, at the end, it wasn't really talked about because of the Max George Charles battle. Oscar had like a 14-second gap or something.
No, it was crazy.
It was
huge gap from Oscar. George came in on second. Lando came in on third. Going back a little bit, it was then Charles, Lewis, Max overtook Pierre for P6. Then it was Pierre. And then we had Esteban. Amazing job. And then it was Yuki and then Ollie. So there was a pretty close battle between Yuki, Ollie, Kimi, and Alex for that final like point spot, or the final 2-point spot, like 9th and 10th. But Ollie, let's talk about Ollie.
He started 20th.
This kid started in 20th. And he got to points. And not only did he get to points, but he got to points on a weekend where there's double Haas points, where you're coming from a qualifying where you qualify in 20th, your teammate crashes in Q2, a pretty nasty crash too that needed a lot of repairs, and you come in and get double points.
Crazy. Crazy.
Haas is moving me.
They're now P5 in the championship.
Yeah.
Which who said at the end of the year they're going to be P5? Me.
Well, it's race 4, so.
I don't care. I literally do not care. 20 more to go. They're staying P5.
No, it was so fantastic. Exciting. Alpine also had I feel like Haas and Alpine were like the two that, you know, in the midfield battle that like they really showed out this weekend. Yeah. Williams had a pretty rough weekend. Alex was out of the points. Carlos DNF'd. You know, it was pretty unfortunate, but they did. But Alpine and Haas did fantastic. They needed this. Alpine finally scored points.
I would say all teams have now scored points.
Which, granted, didn't happen until like the third to last race.
No, literally.
Last year.
Crazy.
So, anything else? Oh, some after-race penalties. Jack did end up getting a 5-second penalty after the race. Didn't affect him too much. He was already out of the points, so it's not too bad. And then Nico also got disqualified from the race due to excessive skid wear. Again, he was out of the points as well, so nothing crazy happened with the standings and with the points, but it was still something to note. We were anticipating George getting a penalty from the DRS infringement that he had because of his time tracker or whatever, but he did not get. Yeah. He went to the stewards. The stewards love George Russell.
Well, if this happened to my driver, I would want the same outcome.
No, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I do think it was fair to not give him a penalty for it. Was I hoping for one? Yes, because I wanted Lando in second. Obviously, I'm a McLaren fan, but I do think it was a fair call that he didn't get it because, again, he almost got a disadvantage from it.
Yeah.
So, final race results. I'm going to read them off to you. Mm-hmm. Oscar, George, Lando. That was your podium. And then we had the Ferraris, Charles and Lewis. Max in 6th, Pierre in 7th, right after he overtook him in that last lap. And then Esteban, Yuki, Ollie. Those are the people that got points. Kimi was in 11th, which this is the first time that Ollie is the highest scoring rookie so far this year. Alex Albon in 12th. And then originally Nico was in 13th, but he got disqualified. So now in 13th, we have Isaac, 14th, Jack, Fernando in 15th, Liam in 16th, Lance in 17th, Gabby in 18th, Carlos with a DNF in 19th, and then Nico got disqualified. So he's technically, I guess, in the 20th spot if you want to count it that way.
What a race.
What a race, man.
Yeah, this was a good one. Glad we were in town for this.
Yeah, it was close. Lando and Oscar are now 1st and 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. If Lando would have finished 1 in 4th, basically off the podium, Oscar would be leading the Drivers' Championship right now, which is crazy.
Should we say the standings for championship?
Yeah, I have the top 10 written down right here.
Oh, I do too.
Okay, perfect. You want to read them off?
Sure, because I have points here. We can talk about that.
Okay.
We have Lando Norris with 77, Oscar with 74, and Oscar overtook Max this week in the championship. Max Verstappen at 69, George Russell at 63, Charles Leclerc at 32, Kimi Antonelli at 30, and Lewis Hamilton at 25. Kimi Antonelli being ahead of Lewis Hamilton.
Crazy.
And then to finish it off for the top 10, Alex with 18, Esteban with 14, and Lance still sitting there with 10 points.
Lance still being in the top 10?
Yeah.
Again, the silent sleeper. Right now. For the Constructors' Championship, we still have McLaren in the lead, and then behind him, Mr. Bruce. Behind them is Mercedes in 2nd, Red Bull in 3rd, Ferrari in 4th, and Haas in 5th. Haas in 5th, man. I'm a big fan.
Insane.
Williams in 6th, Aston Martin in 7th. Aston Martin is having such... I'm not being a hater because I like Aston Martin. I love Fernando. I love Lance. I like Aston Martin. If you would have asked me this time last year, I would say they probably were my second favorite team.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're just having such an insignificant year that it almost does feel like they're just kind of like waiting for 2026 at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be very
They need Adrian Newey so bad. They're just waiting for him.
I wonder if it'll stay this way the whole season, if they're going to see like a flip halfway through.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
I mean, it's interesting to see when some upgrades are coming for these teams. Like Max was talking about some upgrades coming for Red Bull, but not until like, I think Imola. Did he say Imola?
I don't know. I didn't hear that quote, to be honest.
Not for a while. So, I don't know. We'll see. But Racing Bulls is in 8th, Alpine's in 9th, and Kick Saubers in 10th.
You know what? At least we have some points.
We got some points.
True.
Gabby doesn't have points. Nico has points. Team has points.
It's the team.
It's teamwork. Okay, let's do our pops and problems.
Okay.
Who's your pop?
I'm going to give it to Ollie again.
I gave it to Ollie as well.
Yeah.
I do have Ollie / Oscar because Oscar just had such like a kick-ass race.
Literally.
But I do think Ollie going from P20 to P10, I truly don't understand how he didn't get driver of the day.
And you know what? And I know driver of the day doesn't mean anything. I was saying it doesn't mean anything when Lando was getting it every day last year and people were pissed off. What did Lewis do?
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, he did have a good race, don't get me wrong. But like, P20 to P10? Hello?
I almost voted for Jack Doohan just for his qualifying alone.
No, literally. So I do think that Ollie deserves the champagne pops. Good job, Ollie. I have kind of a crazy one for champagne problem.
Go ahead,
Not crazy, but I gave it to Red Bull / Racing Bulls as a whole. Because I wrote some of it down. This doesn't even talk about really qualifying at all, but Yuki and Max track limits, brake problems, overheating. Liam had 2 penalties for causing collisions. Yuki had contact with Carlos that caused Carlos to DNF. Really, the only one minding their business on this team is Isaac.
And he's gonna
mind his business.
He's gonna keep minding
his
business.
Other 3, something was in the air this weekend.
Yeah.
But I gave it to them as a whole because it was just a rough weekend all around for them.
Oh, you know what happened? Isaac said, take all my pain from Australia, triple it, and give it to the rest of the Red Bulls.
Yeah, exactly.
Truly. I am giving my champagne problem to Carlos.
Oh, yeah.
Had a tough break.
These so disappointing.
It is very disappointing.
I just hope that like he has like a good race, gets some points, like shows that he can do in a Williams. And if that happens to be in Miami when I get to see it live, so be it.
So be it. There's something I do want to talk about.
Okay.
Every single race, including the sprint in China, pole position has won. And Fred Vasseur has said this is going to be a qualifying year. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah. Every person who's got pole has won.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because for Japan, like, yeah, that makes sense. There wasn't a lot of overtaking. But, like, for a race like this, the fact that Oscar was able to hold on to it, I think it just really proves how big of a difference, like, dirty air versus clean air is, especially with the high-performing cars, even the McLarens, that, you know, Lando and Oscar, they have the same car, but Lando was struggling so much this weekend because of that dirty air. And I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't continue though, only because it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But also, if it continues, Lando and Oscar are really good at qualifying when they need to, for the most part. So it would be an advantage for McLaren. But so is, Charles is great at qualifying. Max is good at qualifying. I don't know.
I know it's gonna be really interesting to see.
But I almost hope it doesn't continue because I like the hard battles. I like the overtaking, and it makes it more fun when those hard battles and overtaking are happening for first place.
Yeah, like it'll be interesting to see at like if Japan wasn't the way it was, where there's no overtaking happening. It would have been interesting to see if Max could have kept that lead.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Wow, it was a really good race though.
Great race.
Next week's race for the third one of this triple header is Saudi Arabia. And it's at a normal time again for us, correct?
Lovely.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
And then after that is Miami. I am so excited for Miami. If you're going to Miami, please let us know because we're super excited. We're going to be there Thursday through Monday morning. Yeah. But we're going with some of our friends. MJ's going to be there with us. Andrea's going to be there. I'm sure so many other...
There's so many people there. I low-key kind of like... Not to be like... I want it to be a Podium Pop meetup, but I just want to be like all the girls that are going.
Let's all meet here at a spot.
Why don't we just all meet up?
Yeah, because last year Fan Behavior had a meetup and it was great. Yeah. We got to see a lot of people. So I hope that someone organizes it or something. But I'm sure we'll have like an unofficial one too.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. In the sun and racing.
A sprint
weekend. My gosh. Yeah. That's great.
There is so much racing that happens this weekend.
Great. I just can't wait to be out in the sun smelling the cars again.
Love the smell of the cars. But before we get to Miami, go ahead and give me your predictions for Jeddah.
I think... Do you want me to just do winner or podium?
Give me 3 predictions. It can be anything you want it to be.
Okay. I think... Isaac is going to perform better than Liam.
Okay.
That one's not that crazy because it happened a couple times already.
Sure.
But I do think that Isaac is going to outperform Liam. I think that the Williams are going to get double points.
Okay.
And I think that George may win. Wow. George has been looking so strong, and he's been knocking on the door. As much as I don't want him to, I do think that George, if not this race, soon.
Yeah.
We'll get another win soon. What about yours? 3 predictions?
I think Kimi Antonelli is going to get a podium.
Oh, but I kind of wanted him to podium in Miami.
Well, yeah, me too.
But he wouldn't be able to, like, drink the champagne.
They made a joke about that. That was so funny. What did he say? Oh, he said Valtteri would drink it for him.
Yeah. Okay, you're thinking of Kimi. That's
like my like bold prediction, I guess.
Kimi on the podium, like he's gonna be so happy. Mm-hmm. I hope they play "Can't Hold Us" by Macklemore for him.
If they don't, I will. I'm bringing a JBL speaker and blasting it. They're like trying to do the da 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 at the end, and I'm like, "Baby, get on da 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 da." We get the whole crowd singing.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Kimi would love that.
Kimi would love it. And then I think we'll have 2 McLarens on the podium.
Uh-huh.
And
So you think there's going to be McLaren, Kimi?
Or McLaren, Kimi. Okay. I don't think Kimi's winning. I think he's going to be on the podium.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Carlos Sainz points.
Okay. I would love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we have an IndyCar race to watch.
We have an IndyCar race to watch.
So after you finish this episode, keep an eye out for another episode being posted with our IndyCar race recap.
Yeah. Because
they are in Long Beach this weekend. So we will be doing a full episode surrounding that. Mm-hmm. And then next week we will be posting our another race recap.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, a lot of racing.
A lot of racing going on.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you give us a like if you enjoyed this video. Mm-hmm. Let us know if you're going to Miami.
Make sure you are subscribed and following us.
Yes, make sure you're subscribed.
Over 80% of the people who watch and listen to us are not subscribed or following.
Yeah, so if you like
What's the deal with that?
Subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your family.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Tell your enemies to listen to Podium Pop.
Actually, yeah, you should for sure tell your enemies.
So, awesome. Thanks for watching.
Bye.